We'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:01 PM on the 21st of February, 2024. Attending in person, Alan Flagg. Attending remotely, Steve Dollinger. Corey Packard is scheduled to attend, but he's not here. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Can you hear me? I got something's muted.
I am hearing you loud and clear, good buddy. Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go.
Wonderful.
So there's no one here for any public inquiry, so we can skip over that. What I want to talk about, Steve, is just progress on the fiscal year 25 budget. I've spent quite a little bit of time this past week since we met last Monday with the Board of Selectmen, or I met, looking at the data. And I've scrubbed out a lot of what I thought were things that needed to be scrubbed out. Just seemed to be a lot of duplication of some numbers and everything. Without going through everything I've done, I can walk through it if you'd like to go through it. But I took the approved budget from the annual town meeting from last June and took that as the baseline. And then I took all of the articles from the special town meeting and checked each one of those to make sure they were added, because a number of those, if you recall, added salary or moved it from the unemployment account to the other ones. So what we've got right now is an increase before all the salary questions get answered of $100,846. So it's down to just under 6%. There were a couple of things in there that when I saw them were in the requests that I knew weren't supposed to be there. One of them was, for example, the funding for some money for the fire department, which was part of the fire truck purchase. So it was just in the wrong column. So we cleaned all that up. I haven't shared that with anyone else. I was hoping if Corey made it, he was going to bring an updated version of that information. But we'll wait and see if he makes it, if he does have that.
Yeah, when you say what's in the wrong column, does that mean from an accounting perspective, it was placed in a wrong account as well? Or is it just a formatting?
So a good example would be, let me show you one. Hang on.
Yeah, that's fine. Didn't mean to make you go into a pal. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. And
yep, no, that's a good question. You see the spreadsheet?
I see
okay.
It. Perfect. All right, go for it.
Yeah, no, just give me a minute. I'm trying to get up to one. This is my final one this is the one I
thought you were asking me a question or something.
No, this is my cleaned up version. So let me find one of the ones that was in here.
Yeah, you can look at your revision history too. If you want to.
I was trying to find fire, but I must have gone by it.
It's expense type. It's under fire, yeah. So you can organize it.
Okay. So you see the special articles down below.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, yes. So some of those numbers were over here. If you see, I'm in column K, row 1.
Yeah, they're not even. There's nothing calculated.
There should be nothing there. But what happened is, let's say if you put 5,000 in there, that adds to the total.
Of course it does.
And somehow, I can't explain how, because it went back and forth between Corey and myself a few times. Some of those were taken out and some were left in there. So there was a couple. The one was $42,000. That was from 2022, and I know it was paid, so it just wasn't taken out of the spreadsheet. So that's what I say when I went through and cleaned it up. I looked for things that shouldn't be there. Some questions I wanted to run through. So why don't we go back to the top here and let me do that to start.
So would we not do an equation that says anything that's marked in color red, or I guess we couldn't even do that. We'd have to say anything that's appended past this line.
Yes, Suzanne knew how to do that. I do not.
Yeah, the equation's there, right? My question
Yeah.
is do we want to put like special town articles all the way at the bottom? And this is just a formatting question, right? This has nothing, it can be done.
Yeah,
We
no,
don't say
I
it can't be
actually,
done.
I have another version where I took and moved them to the bottom. Actually, I didn't, I cut and pasted them and put them on a different page just so I wouldn't lose them.
A sheet, you mean? Yeah,
And
different
then
sheet.
I asked Corey if he could help create totals at the bottom of each one. So if you look here at the Board of Assessors, the one that's up there right now, um, I
Because you
created a
could do
column.
subtotal, you could do subtotal and total, but I'm not going to get into the weeds about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know it can be done. It's just not something
Yeah.
I've done in a spreadsheet. Corey said he could do it, so that's why I'm saying I was hoping he would bring his computer and have an updated version with the totals and subtotals in them. I actually
We
did
can,
them in a different column. I just went out to column P and
don't
did all my
forget,
calculations out there, but then I didn't save them because I didn't want them
if you
to.
want the right equation, Alan, don't forget there's Chat GPT. If you want
That's
an
true.
equate, I swear to God, if you want an Excel equation, don't give it the data.
No,
You
no,
just tell it, I
I've
want
used
to
a
do
lot of the
this and this.
equations. I don't want to be duplicating what Corey's going to be working on.
No,
So
no, no, of course not. And I was just being
yeah,
silly.
no,
So,
I used to do a lot of equations, not a lot, some, but I said, you
yeah,
know what,
V lookups and
if,
double
yeah,
dips.
if he's going to do that, I don't want to start doing it. I really think it's important. One of us
No, of
kind
course.
of control the data so you don't have different people changing it at different times.
Right, but if you have it on SharePoint, we can revert those changes as well. So that's
As long
always
as
make sure
you,
to
yeah, as long as
open
you
in
recognize.
SharePoint, correct.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree
No,
with you
we're
on
saying
that.
this, we're saying the same thing, Steve. I'm sorry.
All right. No, 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 man.
I was kind of
Hey,
hoping he would be here so we could go through this that way, but I'm just giving you an example here of where we're at. As you can
I
see,
agree.
we're at 5.73%. So if you can take a minute and look in column O,
Okay.
these are some of
Are
the
you,
things that I've
you're
made
still
just
at
notes.
are you still at line 19, 20?
I am at line 6 now.
Okay, good. All right. Just making
Yeah.
sure I'm looking at the same page as you.
So I know the Board of Selectmen talked about the 27,500 going up, but I don't have a number as to what it's going up to. I think it's going up by a small amount, if I recall. So I made a note that we need to find out, and that's what I've done as you go down the FinCom note page, scroll down through it. If you go to the next line down, which is Board of Assessors part-time wages,
Yeah, and the STM
you know,
increased it.
you can see I increased it because there was a special town meeting for 1611.
Yep.
But and so I did that all the way through. What I still haven't done, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, is,
Okay.
for example, I'm now on line 29, Board of
Yeah,
Selectmen salary and
I'm looking
wages.
at, yeah, I'm looking at it with you.
Okay, so either the Board of Selectmen or Maribel put in a 10% increase for the admin position.
I thought it was only 5%.
I don't think they've had a number that's come out yet. I haven't heard of a number. We
For
talked,
Board of Health or
no, Board of Selectmen,
Board of
line
Select? I
29,
apologize. I
line
apologize.
29. Yeah, line 29.
Was,
Yeah, the Board of Health,
yes,
you are correct. That was done. It moved it up, it permanently embedded it
good,
at $5,000.
good. All right,
But
understood.
if you look at the admin for this, for Maribel's position, I still don't have a good answer as if they're level funding all salaries and then they're going to address each one of them as a group, as they've done in years gone by.
Or is it
Because,
because we're having a primary and a presidential election this year?
yeah, but Maribel has nothing to do with that. That's all under the
Okay,
town clerk that pays for
okay.
that.
Even
So,
after the fact that it's been stamped?
yeah, no, it gets
Okay,
charged to the town
just
clerk.
understood. Just keeping it clear.
So my question here, I just don't know. I don't have an answer, Steve, is, Maribel shows a $4,200 increase for the coming year. Let me scroll down a little further if you don't mind.
Please do.
And you look at zoning enforcement, which would be line 55.
I'm looking at it now. Just give me a second.
There's no increase there. So
And that increase is Zoning, so that doesn't increase on the Greenway, okay,
Yeah,
understood.
if you look at I and K, I is 24, K is
Yes.
25 requested. So
Mhm.
again, I've gone with the assumption, I thought that the Board of Selectmen were gonna do salary all separate after we completed the expenses review. But the spreadsheet isn't reflecting that, so I have tried to not change the ones I don't know about. The ones I do know about, I changed. You know, if you look at the Council on Aging, um, line 70, I know
Which
they've
was voted
discussed,
on,
which
which was
was,
voted,
this is a different one. This is an increase on top of the increase that was voted on.
the increase we voted on was for
The
ticket
increase
and
we
bond,
voted on,
for donations.
right, but if you look at column I, the 10,300,
Yeah,
that's what was approved at the annual town meeting. If you remember, a member of the audience stood up and recommended a $300 addition on top of the 10,000
yes,
that was in there.
yes, where did that come from?
And so that was approved. So that's 10,300. So that should be the base for fiscal year 25 before an increase.
Understood,
Um, but the Council on Aging has been in front of the Board of Selectmen for
more
most of
than
their
that,
meetings, pretty
yes,
often.
of course.
And I know they've talked about salary. So again, we don't have, last meeting we had, Lucy came and was able
Yes,
to answer some of these questions, but I just don't have answers for them.
you don't have to, we'll worry about that on Monday, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll talk about that on Monday. So if we went through all of this, and I don't think we need to cover every one of them, the fire chief is asking for $12,000 in increased wages. I believe what he's actually asking for is to have more officers and more fire department members, and not an hourly increase, but just more bodies and more hours that add up to that 12,000. So when you
Right.
go through it, if you start, and again, ones like that I didn't take out yet because I'm not sure what the Board of Selectmen has told the fire chief because we haven't met. If we back all the
That's coming,
salaries,
that's coming next month though, right?
that's next Monday, yeah. So we'll meet, so we'll know more on that next Monday. So a lot of
Oh,
this is very preliminary,
okay.
in my mind. But if you look at like the highway department, I level funded that because I know we're going to be hiring a new highway super. And I discussed this with
At an increased wage.
at
So,
some increased wage. However, I really believe this. I think it's going to be thought through, is whatever you put in the budget becomes the floor for the increased wage.
and
And most people, if you say the job starts at, 90,000, well, nobody's going to say, give me 80 and I'll be happy.
never, so they already went over the overtime budget in the summer. I want to understand that more. And
Which one are you looking
uniforms,
at?
like,
I'm sorry, which one's
yeah, I'm just looking at the line number 120.
yeah. Yeah, he's trying to increase the budget by $454.
Is it because there was a lot of flooding and a lot of quarter-inch stone that needed to be dropped? I mean,
Well,
I
that was
want to
last
know.
year. This is what he's asking for fiscal year
That's
25.
I knew what it was asking for. That's what I'm saying. So did we spend on more crusher run or quarter-inch rock? I mean, getting more people out there to fill in gaps because we had one of the rainiest seasons. Wasn't so much snow. Again, I'm just
Yeah, I
making
don't know. I mean, that's possible.
these
And
are this is
he'll explain that next
right.
Monday.
And these are, I'm just noting this for the record, right? He's just
Yeah.
asking, okay, so what
Well, no,
are
I agree with you.
uniforms? Uniforms I get, hey, we all need something new to wear. Can't wear it for 5 years and expect it to last. And then signs and streetlights.
So that's actually the painting of the parking lines, like in the parking lot here at the town hall. Town signs and streetlights is what I understand is in there. And
Which
he went,
streetlights? Are
we
we
put,
talking like pedestrian lights? Are we
say
talking
again?
pedestrian lights? Like just walking down the street and there's a telephone light.
I believe any street light in town falls into that category. Because the highway department takes care of all of them. Doesn't matter if it's a pedestrian or a building or something.
You know what I'm talking about though, right? Well, my mention, I'm just wondering if, whatever, we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, like I said, he's coming in next Monday, so we'll talk
Yeah.
to him about it.
Understood.
So, highway, here's another one that I picked up on that he hadn't funded. If you remember
Line
the
one
special,
forty-two,
the special town meeting on line 142, yes. Actually, line 143, sorry. So at the special town meeting, we voted to provide $10,000 from free cash for contracted
Yeah.
services because he had to hire plow drivers, or I'm sorry, had to hire outside plows because we didn't have enough coverage, if you remember.
and we're talking about those two new roads.
That was part of
Or
that
not-
conversation, correct? Yeah,
Okay.
that was part of it. But the point I'm making here is when I looked at it, I'm the one that added 10,000 to the fiscal year 25 budget because he didn't request it again. So it was voted on as a special town meeting to be part of the budget, but he took it out for this coming year. So again,
I
I don't have an
probably-
answer. We just have to ask him.
I think that's an accounting issue, not accounting, but like a typo on the spreadsheet. That's all.
Yeah, I think it just got overlooked or a typo error or something.
Correct.
But again, when I say I went through this and tried to clean up things that to me were kind of glaringly obvious,
I can see it.
we gave the highway $10,000 in January of this year, only 2 months ago, because he was, pretty firm that he was going to have to, if we had much snow, he was going to have to go out and hire outside services to help plow.
Right.
So I would assume that situation would be the same for the next fiscal year 25. So I added it back in. So that's a good example of where I said I tried to clean up the things I saw that were, to me, obvious. We still have to get clarification, but I think it helps us get the budget more correct than it
Right.
was.
100%. Right. Let's keep going.
So, Parks and Rec, I'm trying to think.
Second benches, master. It's a server. Okay. Telephone lease-
which one do you
telephone
want?
and heat. Looking at police, 178, 179.
So
That makes
the big
sense.
discussion at the police budget, Steve, let me pull that up for you so you can see it. I'm going to switch here for a second.
Take your time.
So when we went over the budget with the chief, I had spent some time with this. So now if you look at column P, you can see he's got a lot of increases and decreases of either 5 or 10%.
Yep.
Okay, so I went through and added all those up, and it actually resulted in a like $160 decrease in his total expense budget. So I
Right, the
suggested we
increasing-
just,
So we
because he had some
increased,
increasing and some decreasing, but he basically level funded his expenses outside of salary.
part-time. Heat and telephone. Telephone's gonna get increased because we're doing that split. And then the heat is increasing because of the economy. We cut in half the training because of grants, I think.
Actually, he said
Training,
because of,
physicals, sorry.
Yeah.
not training.
he said that's really
Um,
because they're staffed to, they got the full-time position for him now. Full-time position for Matt Rosen, the full-time
Yeah.
officer. And he said that because of that, and everybody's had their physicals that's currently on, he's not really in a staffing up position, so he just isn't going to have as much of that.
He just had 3 part-time officers come in. But they already had their physicals, I think, through the state.
If not,
For
they
the
probably
sheriff's
would get him in this year's budget, yeah, before we get
Okay,
to
all right,
next year.
I'm assuming, so, again, everybody, please, I'm just
So
asking questions.
for
Scroll
me,
down real quick.
For me, the big question on the chief police one, Steve, is in the salary area.
5.
So if you go to the chief's salary, it increases by 3,000. And I understood from the discussion with the Board of Selectmen, that actually was in the contract he signed to go full-time a year ago, that he would get
And that
that
includes,
increase this year.
and that includes that's what the benefits, right?
So that's why it's 93,000 for fiscal year 25.
So that's with benefits, correct?
That's correct. That's the correct number.
Okay, and so we
Okay,
knew the
next one.
benefits were gonna go up.
Next one down is the full-time officer. 60,300, and he level funded that. He said, because there's been no decision on salary, which he made the right decision there. The Board of Selectmen will decide, as they look at the total budget, how much they can actually give out in salary increases. So if you recall the letter that went out to all of the departments, it very specifically said level fund salary and wages. Unless, again, the chief has a contract that has a built-in increase in it. So you can't avoid that. That's going to happen every year.
Understood.
The next one down concerns me, part-time salaries. There's two things that concern me there. The first one is if you look at the fiscal year 24 budget for part-time
Why
salaries.
is it going? It is going down way.
Well, let me finish. No, the first, if you look at column I, it shows 54,464.
Yeah.
That's not the budget this year. So there's a bust in that number. I've actually sent Don, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, an email asking him to look at it because I'm not sure how that number got changed. But it's almost 20,000 overstated, if I remember. We had an article, if I went back to my spreadsheet, is the one we were looking at earlier, where we had the special article in January that added to the part-time police salary increase, if you remember.
Yes.
That brought it up to, I think it was 36,000.
It brought it up from 54 and increase in
No,
36.
the 54 is not the 54 is a wrong number. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
I understand. All right, I understand that part, but you're saying that it's 36,000 increase from that, or is that 54,000 just a weird number? It shouldn't even be in there.
It should not even be in there.
Okay, understood.
Hang on one second.
Take your time. You probably have to right click on
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I had that sheet. There it is.
that. There it is, master bill.
So if you look at the police department,
I think it's down. Part-time
part-time
salaries.
salaries. Yeah, I'm sorry, I said they're close to 36. It's close to 33. It was 32 something. That was after. That was
Okay.
after the $6,000 increase, $6,249 increase that we provided in January. That's what it added up to at the special town meeting. That's the number we used. So I don't know how it went from there.
So it should be at 38.8 or something.
No, this is the number. It should be at 32,464. That's what the town voted on and approved in January of this year.
Okay, now I'm looking at the math. Yep.
And you look here, it shows
Way
54,000.
Yeah. Okay.
So
we just need
I
to
think
get
there's a bust in the spreadsheet. That's the only way I can explain it. So
That's
if you change
understandable.
that, if you change it to 32,000, he's asking for a $56,000 increase in wages for the year for his part-time officers. Now, if we go back, if you remember, when we had all the discussions with Fred about this, he was pretty clear that he could cover, if he went full-time, that he could cover with the part-time wages what he needed if we were to give him the funds that were provided to the police department at the special town meeting in January. So what this new increase is all about is he wants to go to either overnight coverage 24/7 or at least close to overnight coverage on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. I'm not in favor of that right now. I think we're getting too many things. The police, again, this is my opinion. It's not anything concrete, but we have gone from no full-time officers to both a full-time officer and a full-time chief in the last 2 years. Those two combined added something in the range of, and I'm going to pick a number, $60,000-$70,000 to the wages and for the police department. He's had a couple of nice wins. Same with the fire department. They get the fire truck. I mean, they've had some nice wins. With the way this budget is shaping up, we're still looking at something in right now, close to a 6% increase before salary adjustments by the Board of Selectmen. That's a big increase. And again, this is just my opinion, Steve. I'm curious what you think. I think this may not be the right year to start trying to get 24/7 coverage. I did ask Fred to provide us with some data as to how many calls there are after 11 o'clock at night.
It gets pretty quiet.
Yeah, again, if it's 1 or 2 calls a week, I'm like, okay. And between the state police, which are here going by on Old Turnpike and the other roads all the time because of the training and everything, and coverage from Rutland, Berry. I think I heard him say one time the coverage was about 7 minutes for a response from out of town or something like that. I can't, don't hold me to that.
Again, right. So again, in what was it, 2016, it took 20 minutes for the first officer to arrive, 18 minutes for the first fire.
At your house. Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
So I am it's hard for me to argue against it, but I want to hear more, right? Like, we just did this full-time thing. Okay, we hired 3 new part-time guys. Cool. I'm awesome. What are we doing now? I thought we were going to be concentrating on equipment, facilities, something more long-term for a little bit. I get the economy, I get the state of our union kind of thing, but I want to hear more. I'm very interested to hear what's up.
Okay, we can arrange for him to come in for one of the next
Oh,
meetings.
please.
And
I would
ask more
love that.
questions.
Please.
But
Can we do this? Can we?
Well, I mean, we just had him
schedule that
last
for
week,
March?
so he came in and spent quite a lot of time explaining it all last week. And he had he did a nice job. He had a nice breakout of how
On
he
the-
would staff
the
everything for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, things like that. I mean, he had a
And
good
you're
plan.
talking about the BOS meeting.
Yeah, the BOS. Well, it was a joint BOS finance committee. I mean, I accepted it on behalf of the finance that we would participate.
No, that's fine. I'm sorry I couldn't make it.
Yeah, no, I know. I realize that, but it's just, I'm trying to not double book everybody, because I know
So,
Corey can't make Mondays because of his situation. And,
Is it, would it?
you
would
don't want to
be
get the
inclined if
police
I-
chief. Steve, give me 1 second, please, just to finish. I'm trying to not double book to where the police chief, the fire chief, the highway department, library, everybody has to come to a meeting with us and a meeting with the Board of Selectmen. I think it's much better if we can do it one time. And then if there's still questions, we can always invite them back for some additional discussion. So we can invite the chief back if you want to talk with him about this.
I would love to, unless you're inclined for me to meet him privately, I could do that too, to get
Yeah,
a
you
better
gotta-
understanding.
You
That's
gotta
up to you.
you gotta watch the private meetings because you don't want to get into a public meeting becoming private. Is a term that Aaron
No.
likes to use for that. I know.
I know, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
So
I
that
think
we
it'd
don't
be
waste
better to-
time.
it'd be better to do a public or to just send them an
I'm
email
down.
with some questions.
All
But
right, let's do that too.
so
I'll
that
write
is
some up tomorrow.
that is the one increase that he really had. Everything else is level funded, and
Which
like I
is
said,
great.
I just don't. I mean, I did a great job with the rest of it. I just don't think this is the right year to approach the town for another $50,000 increase in salary and wages for the police department. We've got a lot of other expenses. We know the Quabbin expenses are going to be well above the 2.5. I mean, we only get a 2.5% increase in our revenue, as you know.
Mhm.
So anything over 2.5%, we have to take out to be the stabilization of free cash. And the free cash is down to just over 200,000 now, whereas a couple of years ago it was running over 400. So we keep dipping into it. We just got to be careful of that.
And our growth is I don't know if it's slowed, but
It's about
it's
the
gonna be.
same. I mean, it's not too much slower. Um, so that's what we talked about with the chief. Let me move on to the library unless you have more comments on this one.
No,
So the library did a very good job in funding or putting their budget together, I thought. I mean, they followed the directions exactly as they were written. They didn't try to put anything in for salary. And they put in the increase where they felt they had to have them. The electricity is the big one. You can see the increase there on row 5. And that's just because that's what costs have been running, and they under budgeted last year is what it came down to.
they didn't add any new computers, printers, nothing, Christmas lights or something.
No. So the big question here, Steve, that hasn't been answered is the director's position. As you know, she's submitted her resignation a while ago now, last year in the fall, early winter. And they're having trouble finding anyone to take the position because it's a part-time position without benefits. So they have in essence asked that the town agree to moving it up to 25 hours a week and offering benefits. So that the benefits package, as you know, runs right around $22,000 per employee. So the salary would go up some, but it would not be an increase in the hourly amount, only in the 6 additional hours a week. But then you have the benefits increase, so it's significant. Samantha sent an email today. I think you got a copy of it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet or not.
I have not.
I saw it. I saw it this morning. I guess it was actually it was mid-afternoon because I was ice fishing all morning. So it was after lunch.
Oh,
before I
lucky
looked at it.
you.
Oh, I had a
Lucky
great
you.
time.
Oh, I bet you did.
But she did a nice job outlining what she's looking for. But again, it's the same question. I think that
Can I ask
it's
you a
going to be a
question?
hard question for the Board of Selectmen to answer. You've got pretty much all of the bigger departments, highway, fire, chief, police chief, I mean, and library, which are the 4 biggest budgets, all asking for fairly significant increases in the wage and salary area. All for additional staffing, not someone asking for a big salary increase, but saying we need more bodies, we need hours to do the job.
Come on now, it's 2024 and we knew if we haven't been ringing that dinner bell for a while now, I would say, oh, this is crazy. But we've been, as long as I've been on this committee with yourself, fearless chairman, we've been talking about it, not blazing the horn, right, of Gundor, but we're at least saying, hey, this is going to get worse before it gets better. So my question is that, have, you know, as far as the library goes, have we looked at Amherst and the colleges in Worcester, seeing if there's some type of program we can get folks in that are trying to look for a state job? I don't know. I would like to know that. What is it, and what does the library commission think of this as well? What are they looking for?
Well,
Can't
the
we get their
trustees,
input? That's me, trustees.
the librarian and the trustees were both at the meeting on Monday. And one of the challenges they have is they want trying to remember exactly how I believe the state requires a minimum of a graduate degree in library studies. But Sam has her master's and they want someone with a master's to take over the library. That's where I think where they're running into trouble is, people that have those qualifications aren't willing to take on a part-time job in most cases.
And we could, I know this might be even a silly question, but we couldn't even ask the superintendent of the Quabbin. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. It's something that needs to be thought about strategically and collaboratively between ourselves and the Board of Selectmen and the Library of Trustees.
Yeah, no, I agree. But that really wasn't the library. The whole thing is around what are we going to do to help them And it was the trustees were there, and that's why they were there. To help them be able to hire someone that can fill the role. That's the big question. Other than that, I think the library budget's fine. I don't think we have an answer for that one yet. We probably need to learn more about it. When you get a chance, read through Samantha's email. It kind of summarizes the whole situation. It's a quick read.
If it's cool with you, tomorrow, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna re-review this budget. I'm gonna send you and Corey a bunch of questions. If you're cool with them, do you mind emailing them out to their respective departments
No, that's fine.
on behalf of us?
That's fine.
Okay.
No, that's, again, just remember everything that you send like that is part of the public record.
I understand. No, these are very, who, what, why, when, and how.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
preface that.
just remember that as you
Understood.
write,
Yes.
just a reminder. The final budget we reviewed on Monday was the Board of Health,
Yes.
and there was no, I mean, he's changed it while we would, from this version, this was the one submitted, but he still has he's still under budget, yeah. So there was almost no discussion on this one
Understood.
of Magna. I mean, no, there was discussion, but there was no, no concerns. It was okay, we'll accept the Board of Health probably as submitted.
Okay.
So that was that. I'm gonna unplug for a couple of minutes.
Take your time.
Yeah, I think, Steve, we've covered a lot of it. I think the things we just really need to think through is, I didn't bother going to the fire department because we haven't got there yet. That'll be this coming Monday, and if you can dial in for that, you'll get to hear it live.
Oh, I'm definitely dialing in. I'll be in Mexico, but, oh,
As long as you got a connection from Mexico, we'd love to have you dial in.
yeah, I'm definitely.
The issue there is he is looking also for a significant increase in the wages area. And his reasoning is not asking for increases in dollar amounts, not a wage increase, but he wants to add additional, I believe this is, again, I don't have all his stuff with me, it's back at the desk. He wants additional officers brought on and trained, or firemen brought on and trained, I guess I should say. And again, it comes back to the same thing, when you really get into it, the big increases from highway, fire, the police, and library are all
People.
staffing. They're not expenses, they're staffing. And I think that, again, the police has had a couple of really good years as far as staffing and how much their budget for wages and salary has increased. The fire department, again, different category, but they got almost $1 million new truck last year. So they've done some good stuff for their group. And I think part of what Tim wants to do is make sure he's got the right people on that truck and that they're properly trained and that. So that's why
He's also thinking about the future, right?
Say again, Steve?
He's also thinking about the future, 1 year,
Yes.
3 year,
Yep.
5 year,
Yep.
10-year plan, right? Which is proper disaster recovery type stuff in my industry. So again, I appreciate everybody, and I just want to be able to explain it better for everybody else. So I can't wait to collaborate with everybody. I'm gonna write up some questions that I have,
Okay.
in a very colloquial way, and
I
I
will
would love
load
to meet
this.
with these.
I'll load the big spreadsheet that we looked at, what I think of as Corey's spreadsheet. He built it. I just have been using it and,
Okay.
like I say, cleaning it up. I'll put that out on the SharePoint site so you can look at that also.
Yeah, I will. I have a very long flight
Okay, good.
there, so I can't wait to read it.
But again, I think the town has done a good job the last few years on staffing for the police,
I
highway.
agree.
I
You're a
do get
small
concerned.
town.
I do get concerned when they want to put the new salary in the offering for that position. because, there may be someone that would take it for 85 if they thought the budget said it was 76. But if the budget says it's 90, they're gonna want 95.
And
That's
if
the
they're
way
on the
hiring works. I spent a lifetime
Right.
hiring people, and that's just how it works.
But also too, when you think about state and local government, are they on the tail end of 20 or on the front end of it? Right?
Yeah,
And
that's a good question. Good comment.
that is a huge bargaining chip for a lot of folks. I'm on tail end of 20. I got 6 years left. Do I feel like working in Worcester? Or do I want to work in Ocam?
Yeah, and you also have, I think, the factor is, do they call one of the towns out in this area home? Can they work very close to home instead of driving to Shrewsbury or something like that? So there's a lot of factors that go into finding a good person, I think. There may be someone in one of the local towns around us or someone here in town that would like to become the highway super that's fully qualified. We don't know any of that yet. I think they were just getting ready to post the position this week. I know it was talked about last week at the meeting. They were going to get it posted, but they had not done so yet.
Again, I think we need to talk to trade schools too and things of that nature. It's going to be tough, but I can't wait to see what comes out of it.
I'm curious who applies for it. Yeah, that's
Same here,
a
man.
good one. So next steps here, I think for the budget, Steve, I will be at the meeting next Monday. If you can dial in, that would be awesome.
I will dial in 5 p.m. Central.
We're going to review the highway department, the fire department, and the treasurer collector's budgets. All three of those are out on our SharePoint site already, so you can look at them or print them out and take with you on the plane or however you're going to do it. And I will put this.
I don't want to bring town secrets.
Okay, just to keep it on the computer. Well, you can always download it to your laptop or your.
No, of course. I have an iPad,
that way.
laptop, or watch in Spawn style.
The other thing I'll do is I'll make sure that I get this big spreadsheet loaded up into SharePoint in the morning, so you can have that.
Yeah, and I plan on just
Steve,
opening it up.
Corey may have an updated one because he told me he was working on one, but I'm sure something came up tonight, probably at the campgrounds that he had to work on.
Understandable.
So there's one more thing I had. Hang on a second.
Please.
That's the wrong file. Hang on.
Oh,
I think it's still in Corey's email, so I might have to go pull it down again. He had sent me the updated fiscal year 24. And he had highlighted some areas with questions.
Okay.
But I don't think I saved it on my laptop. I think it's just still out there in the emails.
In the ether.
Oh, okay, I got it right here. Hang on.
Not a problem.
Let's just take a quick look at it, then we can pretty much be done.
I appreciate it, my friend.
All right.
Okay, so this is an adjustment sheet, correct?
This is the actual budget for fiscal year 24.
Okay, so this isn't an adjustment. This is what he's working on. Got it.
Yeah, no, whoops, sorry.
Thank you for the 24,000% increase in vision.
Yeah. So couple of things. If you look over to the right on this one, questions, these are the things he wanted to make sure we took a look at.
Right, in red, correct.
In the red, the cyclical inspections. My intent was, after we talked about it tonight, was to send the Board of Selectmen just a summary of all the questions. I will still plan on doing that.
Can I give you some questions tomorrow by midday and you can send it after lunch? Or...
Yeah, or you can do them, don't kill yourself to get them done. I mean, I check the town email at least once, usually in the morning, at least once a day. Um, he made a point here that the Board of Selectmen in their dues area, they're over on the line item, but well under budget in total. So they're not in red. They're just want to keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Cherry sheet's still pending. The Quabbin School bond, he makes a good point here. I saw this and I wasn't even aware. I don't think we
I remember,
budgeted for
I
the five.
remember, I remember that bond. I couldn't tell you why I remember it, but I remember it. We'll have to talk about it later.
Yeah, so we'll have to go through it.
Yeah.
If you come down to the fire department, he's got three here where they're significantly over budget. Somebody's out there. But the big one is training wages.
Uniforms, vehicles, entry.
So what I understand is happening here from Tim is he is using the training wages line, if you see it, the first one there of the three, to charge some of his fire staff charges against, but they're not training wages. He was trying to break out his salary so he could track it in a different way. So it distorts the budget a little bit, but if you look at part-time salaries, he was saying that he knows what his total number is going to be, and he will be under that. So I think it's okay. The budget's 79,000 and he's only sitting at 39 through 7 months. So he's right at the 50% mark for the actual wages grouping. So I don't think it's a concern. It does distort the accountant's spreadsheet because she can't change that. I mean, that's what he's putting in. So that's what's being recorded. So it does kind of give you a little misdirection on where he's spending the money. But it's because he wanted to track some special items.
And I totally agree with that. So again, let's get down and dirty with it. Let's get those itemizations. And
I think if he wants to do this next year, I think the accountant would prefer if we just set up a separate, if he went to her or we worked with him to set up something so he could track what it is he's tracking without impacting this. When they do like an audit or anything on this a few years from now, people are going to look at it and say, what were you doing?
What is this? And we would need that itemization sheet, correct? Is that
right? You have to go back and research it. Yep.
Thank you, Alan.
I think
that was it. We already talked about signs and streetlights.
Yeah, this is where I was saying he's well over budget. The special town meeting we gave him, I believe, was an additional. Was it 3,000? Do you remember?
I don't remember. The highway is a blank to me.
We funded some additional. It was either 3,000 or 5,000 additional funding there because there's just been a lot of increases in the cost of getting that done. But again, the departments, the department's within where you would expect them to be. So I don't think.
Okay.
I think it's an issue. Library, Alan, that was the one I did last month.
Yes,
that was just the accountant fixed that already, or she's going to fix it. I don't know if it's actually shown up yet as fixed, but it was just a mistake.
Okay.
No big deal. And again, this is the police department part-time salaries. He was over budget. We just gave him 6,000 something more. And if you look at this sheet, if you look at the one that Corey highlighted, you can see the 26,215.
Yes.
That was the budget for fiscal year 24. And so earlier I told you I added the money that we approved at the special town meeting to that.
Okay.
And Fred has some grant monies and everything that he's using in that area also.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I want to find out. That I think it's grant, but we'll just figure it out.
Yeah, if you've got some questions there, we can get them to him.
I'm down.
Town
Census.
clerk census, to me, that's a minor one. So Corey asked what these transfers were.
This is where, yeah, I see that. Other
Yeah, so
financing uses.
what these are the transfers that get approved, like if you transfer money from the finance committee reserve to, I don't know, highway. It would show up in the transfer section. The money was transferred around. So it doesn't really change the budget. It's just the accountants, we have to track it. It's just required, is what I was told when I asked the question a few years ago.
And I believe those transfers are by date and a weird number. I don't know. But we'll find
The only other thing
Um,
that we haven't, yeah, that covered all the things Corey had pointed out. But one
Understood.
thing
Thank
I
you.
did mention that came up also, Steve, is the fire truck principal and interest payments. Just something for you to think about before we finish up here. The interest payment's a little over $40,000. And we
Ray,
allowed for,
you discussed something in regards to this, yeah.
yeah, so the town so far is only making interest-only payments. And we're only required to do that under the current thing, and we are only required to do that until, I think, the end of fiscal year 25.
Making
These
interest only payments?
interest only is what we're paying, right, is what we would be paying. I have recommended, and I'm pretty sure that at least some of the Board of Selectmen agree, they haven't all voiced an opinion that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But we told the town that we would pay off the fire truck in 10 years.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen with interest only.
If we make interest-only payments for the first 2 years, there's gonna be a leftover balance at the end of the 10 years.
Yeah, how many more years? That's the
And of
question.
course, if you don't make that payment, that lets you spend that money now on something else. But 10 years down the road, you gotta pay the piper for that.
Of course you will,
And I don't think that's right.
especially
You
if
know,
it's, right, and especially if it's a variable.
right, we said we're gonna pay it off in 10 years. We've got the ability to do so.
You do
Um,
it.
So I think we should do that. We're gonna collect the money on the property taxes. And it should go to the fire truck if that's what the override money is being collected for. It should not go into the general fund. That's just my opinion on it. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
No, and I agree with your opinion and your observation of it, so I appreciate you.
Do you have any new business or old business, Steve?
Old business, can't believe Kansas City won. New business, go 2024 Patriots.
Yeah,
No, I have nothing new. I just can't wait to get you some questions and then meeting with these individual contributors to figure out what's really going on. So we have a better picture as we all patiently wait for April.
yeah,
So I
that'd be
guarantee
busy.
you that, yeah, well, I guarantee you that's when school's coming. If not by
Um,
the beginning of May.
oh, it's gonna be, we'll have a busy month starting in April, I think. Once we get through all these meetings with the various departments.
Yes,
And we kind of can sit down, because remember, the next real step is for the Board of Selectmen
push it
to
forward.
give us their budget, what they think the budget should be. I mean, that's the
And-
next big,
right.
once we have that, then we really have to start analyzing
Oh, yeah.
if we can afford it. I mean, that's to me is gonna be the big question. I mean, I'd like to do all the things everybody wants to do, but we just can't keep spending the way we've been spending the last 2 years, again this year.
But we're trying to
You keep
stabilize
doing
as
it,
well.
it's the same thing. It's gonna come back and start causing problems. We have a good reserve. We have a very strong stabilization position. So there is money there. But, do you want to spend your IRA or your 401k, or however you look at it, or borrow from it now versus having it out there when you really need it? So I don't know. It's a big question.
Paying off your mortgage now just to remortgage it later.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. But the only thing else I have on my agenda here, Steve, is just the minutes from the February 7th meeting. Did you have it? I know you said you reviewed them, but are you good with them?
I am 100% great with them, and I would second a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the 2/7/24 Finance Committee meeting minutes. All in
And I
favor?
second. Aye.
Aye, okay, we have a quorum.
Hey, hey,
Um,
hey.
With that, it's 6:56.
You can stop the recording and I can just.
I'm gonna stop the recording. Hang on for a minute. I need you to help me understand how to
Yes,
forward
stop
this.
it.
Let's
Stop it.
see, do I pause or stop?